So I don't know if you guys have heard of this new game, Cyberpunk 2077. It just released and it looks pretty good. I can't imagine what would have happened if they released it a year ago. In all seriousness though, I think we all know the tragic story of Cyberpunk 2077. This story is not for the faint of heart. Now I reviewed this game when it first came out, which doesn't even feel like that long ago, but that was all the way back in December of 2020. And despite all the negativity and poor reception for the game releasing a broken mess, I still enjoyed it. Obviously the bugs were bad and the performance on PC wasn't great either, but I enjoyed the game covered beneath all that. And I was confident that if it had gotten updates and fixes over time, it would become a good game in the eyes of the public. The 1.5 update that dropped for the game around a month ago was almost like a re-release. It was Cyberpunk's second chance, and I'd say for the most part, the perception of this game has changed. Even just looking at the Steam reviews, it seems most people like the game now. Obviously, there's always going to be those people that will hate it to the end of days and won't forgive CD Projekt Red for crushing their hopes and dreams, but Cyberpunk 2077, while still not perfect and nowhere near the game we were promised, is a significantly better experience now in 2022. The game also has a DLC in the works, so depending on how that goes, that could keep people playing Cyberpunk for the foreseeable future. But since this 1.5 update was so massive and brought so many changes, many people are wondering if now is the time to finally check it out and play it. So I began my second playthrough of Cyberpunk in 2022 to let you guys know if the game is now worth it.
I'm here to say goodbye to all of you.
There were many contributing factors to why Cyberpunk 2077 was possibly the most hyped up game of all time. It wasn't just the immersive city and in-depth RPG systems that caught people's eyes. There was also an intriguing looking story starring one of the most beloved people on the planet.
You're breathtaking!
That's right, John Wick himself is your partner in crime inside your head throughout the game. After a long and intense prologue full of world building and establishing the premise, you end up with Johnny Silverhand, a dead rocker terrorist rebel cool guy in your head. I've seen many opinions on the character of Johnny Silverhand, and I remember being quite surprised to find out most people didn't like the character and were disappointed with the role Keanu Reeves was put in. But I must say, I think Johnny Silverhand is a great character and adds so much to the story. He seems like the biggest scumbag in the world and a threat to everyone who even looks in his general direction, and if you stopped playing the game early on into the main story, then it's no wonder why you found him to be a very shallow, unlikable dirtbag. However, Johnny's character has so many layers beneath the surface. He's a complicated and rich character with moral gray areas. I'm trying my best to explain this without spoiling the story, but I'll just say Silverhand and his relationship with the main character V and how it changes and develops across the board is what makes this story for me. Johnny Silverhand is an extremely underrated character in my opinion, and that relationship with V is not only entertaining, but one of the main driving forces of the story. And aside from Silverhand, there are some other great, rich, complex side characters, and that's always been a strength with CD Projekt Red's storytelling in my opinion, as is evident in The Witcher 3 as well. Judy, Panam, Carrie, River, Rogue, Takimura even. All of these characters bring their own personalities, complexities, and influences on the main character V and contribute greatly to the story. Each has their own multi-layered side quests that expand upon each character as you get to learn more about them and build connections with them. Again, something I feel CD Projekt Red is very good at. The thing with Cyberpunk's story is the main quests itself are very short. If you just play the main questline in this game, you are doing yourself a disservice. The side jobs with these characters add so much to the main story itself, and they don't even feel like side quests. Unlike some games where all the side quests are just meaningless filler, the side jobs in Cyberpunk actually add to the main story and even impact and influence it. There's also an additional few fantastic self-contained storylines that don't necessarily connect with the main story, but are very well written all the same. For example, the questline with Joseph Stevenson and his path to redemption, or the twisted conspiracy with the Perales family. some of these side quests are very memorable. I personally still think the main quest line could have been longer. I understand they wanted a shorter main story because they had data that a lot of people never finished The Witcher 3's main quest, which was very long, but I think it really would have benefited the game and its story. However, the biggest letdown in terms of the story had to be the life pass. They advertised the life pass like depending on the one you chose, your story and experience of the game would be entirely different, when in reality that's not the case at all. It changes the start of the prologue and you get a few extra dialogue options and different cutscenes depending on your life path type. I mean, it's still cool I guess, but it's nowhere near as big or impactful as was advertised. And of course the choices are a big pillar of the story. I don't feel like there were as many big choices to make as let's say The Witcher 3, which I'm gonna keep using as an example. However, there's still a lot of ways the story can end, and V as a character is whatever you make them. The character is supposed to feel like you. Cyberpunk's story may not be perfect, and there's definitely some things they could have done better, but the quality of writing, specifically with all the different characters, including Johnny Silverhand, is definitely there and made the story one intense, engaging journey.
Get him! Time to...
Cyberpunk has a lot of depth in its gameplay systems. When you start the game, you allocate attribute points to different categories for your character, being body, reflexes, cool, technical ability, and intelligence. This allows you to create your own build to suit the kind of weapons and playstyle you want to use in the game. Each category increases different stats of your character's build. For example, body increasing your health, reflexes your movement speed, cool helps with your detection time if you want to play stealthily. Along with this, each category has their own extensive skill tree where you can purchase different perks with skill points you earn by leveling up. So depending on how you want to play the game, whether you want to be a gunslinger or a net runner with lots of hacks at your disposal, you can spend your skill and attribute points accordingly, which I really enjoyed, as I went with this stealthy gunslinger with a suppressed pistol with high reflexes and cool. But you can pretty much play the game any way you want, and there's lots of tools and perks to support each playstyle. You can even build around a specific weapon type. If you'd prefer to use handguns, there's a whole skill tree for that, as well as an assault skill tree for assault rifles and SMGs. Or you can even go for a melee build, as there's a blade skill tree as well. If I do play this game again, I definitely want to go for a full samurai build with the katana and everything. That would be really fun. There's a huge selection and variety of weapons, tons of melee weapons, assault rifles, SMGs, pistols, revolvers, snipers, shotguns, each with multiple variants, types, and qualities. The guns are divided into 3 different categories. There's tech, power, and smart weapons. The power weapons can ricochet bullets off surfaces. The smart weapons lock onto and use tracking bullets on enemies when you have the smart link equipped on your hands. And the tech weapons can be charged up to deal more damage. I had fun experimenting with all the weapon types, especially Skippy, the smart pistol.
Answer, the fuck is wrong with you? Please go see a therapist, you psycho. Note to self, rewrite later. Do not forget.
The gunplay in this game is very satisfying. Of course, some weapons are a lot more fun to use, but they all have their own unique designs and quirks. The reload animations in this game are phenomenal, so stylish. Hats off to the animators for not only creating a bunch of cool, unique reload animations, but also providing multiple variants of animations for the weapons. It's clear there was still a lot of effort and detail put into different parts of this game. Then, of course, there's a lot of depth within the cyberware system as well, where you can purchase and swap out different parts of your body for new skills or enhanced stats. The arms allow you to equip different forms of weapons like the mantis blades, gorilla arms, monowire, or projectile launcher. You can equip different cyber decks to use stronger and more efficient quick hacks, which there's also a lot of depth and variety to. Or you can swap out the cyber decks for abilities like Berserk that supercharge your strength, resistance, weapon recoil for a limited amount of time. Or you can even get another that temporarily slows down time completely. You can swap out legs to get a double jump, boost jump, or make your running completely silent. Not to mention you can customize your shoulders, immune system, frontal cortex. You get it. There's just a lot to customize, again allowing you to find the ideal cyberware to support your playstyle. Not to mention a lot of cyberware and weapons have different mods you can equip to improve them. For example, I equipped electrical damage to my mantis blades to make it look like I had 2 lightsabers on my arms. And back to the quick hacks for a second. there's tons of different unique hacks, all with different variants as well. For example, you can hack an enemy and make them shoot themselves, or even something a lot simpler but very useful by pinging all enemies in the surrounding area. You can even take control of enemy turrets or cameras, or choose to disable them completely. The hacks are really fun to use, and you could even build your entire character around using them. There's just so many ways to play this game, and I was still discovering new items and abilities in my second playthrough. The driving for this game has received a number of changes since its release. The crashes and physics definitely look a lot better. I also like how they pulled back the minimap more so you can see where you're going better with the waypoint. There's of course a large variety and selection of cars, and they're much cheaper to purchase now as well, which is really nice. I still think full car customization would be nice, like something similar to the system in GTA 5. However, there's still of course tons of clothing and character customization. You can now change your appearance in mirrors now, which is a nice addition. My only complaint with the clothing is that you often have to choose between looking cool or having better armor and stats, which makes you look utterly ridiculous.
Thought you looked more, I don't know, professional?
What you mean? Oh. The police and star system has also been updated quite a bit. Again, it's much better than when the game first came out and you had police spawning right behind you, and then it would be extremely easy to escape them. However, the system's still not great. GTA and other open world games have done it much better, and it can still be kind of glitchy. There were times where I was getting shot and spotted by police through walls. And as for the glitches in general, I really didn't have too many. Nowhere near the insane amount I had to deal with when the game first came out, and most of the bugs I did encounter were pretty minimal and not game breaking. It's still not perfectly polished, but it's easily tolerable now in my opinion. So if that's something you had reservations about with this game, then it's not much to be concerned over. Night City is definitely one of the more unique open world cities. They captured the atmosphere and vibe of Cyberpunk really well, with the neon lights on the buildings, garbage all over the sidewalks and streets, and random crime outbreaks throughout the city. It's a perfect complement to the tone of the game, and Night City is one messed up pile of burning trash. Nothing is off the table, and honestly, I have no idea why anyone would want to live here, but it makes for one exciting open world. There's tons of pedestrians and cars on the road, giving the city life. There are several different districts, each looking a little distinct and unique from the other, and having their own class of citizens. And then of course, outside the city are the Badlands, which I was kind of disappointed with. There isn't a whole lot to do in the Badlands, and while yes, it makes sense there isn't nearly as much as in the city, I was just expecting it to be a little more present and fulfilled. In fact, when I first played the game, I specifically chose to be a nomad because I thought I would get to spend a lot of time in the Badlands and learn the inner workings of the different gangs and camps before heading to the city, which I was obviously wrong. The world is jam-packed with gigs and side jobs. The gigs don't nearly have as much depth as the side jobs and are a little more what you would consider to be typical side content with quick little filler quests. Some are unique and memorable, but most of them just feel a bit copied and pasted. Something new that was added though is the apartment DLC, in which you can now rent apartments in different districts of the world instead of being restricted to the one you're given at the beginning of the game, which is pretty cool. It's nothing major, but it adds to the immersion, and with new buffs for showering and sleeping and all that, it gives more incentive to actually go back to your apartment occasionally. As for the presentation, of course the game looks pretty great, considering you have good hardware if you have it on PC, and there's been some solid optimization for the game on PC as well. It definitely runs smoother than it did when it first came out, and it made for a much more enjoyable experience. As for console players, the next gen update for the game came out with the 1.5 update, so you can play on 60 FPS, which sounds pretty good. If you're still on the previous gen consoles, I've heard the game is more stable, but again, still not great, and that's mainly because the game was made with the newer hardware in mind. But if you don't mind the lower performance, then don't let that stop you from giving the game a chance. So, should you buy Cyberpunk 2077 in 2022? Personally, I say yes. It may not be the game we were promised a couple years back, but it has a good, engaging story, fun, deep gameplay systems, and the ability to create your own builds, not to mention a pretty immersive world to tie it all together. It's of course significantly less buggy, and performance has improved quite a bit, so if you're ever going to try Cyberpunk 2077, I'd say now's the time, as the game is in the best state it's been been since launch. And this is probably how it should have been on launch, and maybe there wouldn't have been such a negative response. It's also really easy to find this game on sale nowadays, so I recommend you pick it up when it's on sale for cheap and enjoy the game. That about wraps up this review. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, and if you're watching this and have already played Cyberpunk since the new update, let me know your current thoughts on the game. I'd appreciate it if you left a like if you enjoyed and subscribed if you're new, and other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, everyone.